Okay, good morning. Today is Sunday, the second day of Adar. Continuing with the simcha, with the joy. Simcha peiret together, the joy that we do, we break through all the barriers. Let's not forget this for a minute. But at the same time, with this chapter is actually talking about continuing to talk about how to deal with dullness, spiritual dullness, numbness. And this is again the chapter 29. Today we're going to finish that chapter. And Alter Rebbe gave us a number of pieces of advice. He was talking about focusing, realizing how low we are. The nefesh ha'ba'amis, that is, the animal soul. And we are lower than the lowest creature in a sense. And he was talking about to focus even a Beinani, a person who is on a very high level, full control. If it does get that feeling from time to time, that is a dullness, that is he's feeling that he's not able to light up his soul. And he has to do all these techniques that Alter Rebbe advised, as you can see in the previous lessons, thinking about the dreams that you have. The dreams also tell who you are. And yesterday, there was Shabbos, we didn't have the Shir online. The Alter Rebbe was talking about that sometimes you have to really, literally scream at the Yetzer Hara and your evil inclination. And I'm not talking about screaming out loud, but you do it in your thoughts. And you say, how dare you? You're so low. You're so nothing. He gives all these names that he says. Really to crush him down, to crush down the evil inclination and put him in its place. Why? Because sometimes when someone really boasts that but he's nothing, he has nothing to himself, the only way to really bring him down, put him in his place, is to really show him who he is. And what is the animal soul? What is the Yetzer Hara? Is nothing but an obstacle to godliness that conceals godliness. And his whole existence comes from godliness. When yet Hashem gave its permission to obstruct our vision of Hashem. So that was the Alter Rebbe was talking yesterday, in yesterday's Shir. And today the Alter Rebbe continues in explaining why, what will this do? And he is going to explain that really, as I said, the evil inclination doesn't have any substance. Doesn't have any substance. It is just like darkness. Darkness sometimes can look very scary. But when you realize, you realize what is the real reality, you're breathing a little bit of light, the darkness disappears. So this is the benefit of also, from time to time, when a person feels that is not desiring godliness, instead is desiring some material things, what he sees, what he senses, and he has to really have a really harsh talk to his own animal soul. So let's look inside, see how the Alter Rebbe says it. That's the Alter Rebbe ve'atam, and the reason that humbling the spirit of the sitra achra, the evil inclination, is effective in crushing it. He says, "Lefishe be'emes ein shum mamoshes klal basitra achra," because in truth there is no substance whatsoever in the sitra achra. Shelachein nimshelo lechoshech she'ein boi mamashus shum mamashus klal. This is why the evil, the sitra achra, the other side, is compared to darkness, which has no substance whatsoever. And therefore it is automatically banished by the presence of light. Same thing says the Alter Rebbe, sitra achra. Similarly with the sitra achra, the other side, the evil inclination. Although it possesses abundant vitality, because after all of the creatures of this world which are not holy creatures, they receive the vitality from the sitra achra, from the evil inclination, from the other side, the impure side. To animate all the impure animals, and the souls of the nations of the world. And also, it has the vitality to animate the animal soul of the Jew, as mentioned earlier in Tanya. So the Sitra Achra does have a lot of vitality, abundance of vitality. Nevertheless, Mikol Makoim, Arikol Chayusa Eino Mitzad Atzmo Chas V'Sholem. Yet the vitality is not its own, God forbid. Elo Mitzad HaKdusha Kanis Kalael. It stems from the realm of holiness. Because the impurity, the other side, doesn't have a self-existence. It's only existing because Hashem, God, gives its existence. Therefore, he betela legamre mipnei kedusha. This is why it is completely nullified in the presence of holiness. Just like darkness is nullified in presence of physical light. However, then why then does the evil side succeed to be prominent so much in our lives? So Alter Rebbe explains, "Rak shelegabe kedushas nefesh elekisha ba'adam." But in concerning the holiness of the godly soul of the person, nosa lo hakadosh baruch hu reshus ve'yecholes le'agbia atzma kenegdo. God has given the Sitra Achad permission and ability to raise itself against it, against the godly soul. And why is this? Kedei she'adam yis'oire le'izgaber alea le'ashpila al yedei shiflus u'nemichas ruchay. And this is in order that a man should be roused to overpower it and humble it. We need to humble the evil inclination, the animal soul. How? Al yedei shiflus u'nemichas ruchay. By means of humility and submission of his spirit, our spirit, and being abhorred and despised in his own eyes. Meaning, when we think about ourselves, as we said on Friday, the difference between a Beinan and a Tzaddik, the Tzaddik, his true self is the godly soul. But the average person, what is the soul that you identify with, that you live by? It's your animal soul. That's why when you break down and you on your animal soul, meaning breaking down on yourself and realize and saying to yourself how this part of us that takes over our lives is so low, is so distant from God, and really has no substance whatsoever because it doesn't have a real substance. So that helps the person to lower the evil inclination, and then it reveals their true self, the godly self. And what happens then, says the Alter Rebbe, the arousal of men below to crush the Sitra Achra causes an arousal above, lekayem mashanema misham aritcha neum Hashem, to fulfill what it's written, from there I will bring you down, says Hashem. That's a pasuk that says in Tagbia Kanesha, if you fly up like an eagle, Hashem says, I will bring you down. God will bring you down. But it has to start with us. It has to start with a person breaking down on his own Yetzer Hara, on his own Nefesh HaBa'amis. The Hainu, which means means that he deprives it from its dominion and power, and it withdraws from it the strength and authority which had been given. He had been given it to rise up against the light and the holiness of the divine soul. So when we break down and we crush the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, then it awakens up by Hashem, that Hashem removes the power from this other side, the evil side. Ve'azai, and then mimele betela ve'nitchis kebitlo la'choshech mipnei oir hagashmi. Thereupon, it says, it automatically becomes nullified and banished, just as darkness is nullified before physical light. And now, the Alter Rebbe brings an example, the way we find in the Torah a very interesting example. And he brings the story of the Meraglim, the spies. You know the story, the spies were sent by Moshe Rabbeinu to go into the land of Israel and give us a report, and then they came back. 10 of them came back with a terrible report. The Jews started to cry, and they said, it's not going to be possible to get in there. Even God, ki chazak hu mimenu, they said, that they are stronger than him. When the spies described all these giants that are there, the people cried out and they said, it's going to be impossible to win. Even God cannot take them out. They're stronger than him, God. That's what the Jews said. And Moshe Rabbeinu told them, Hashem got very upset about their crying, about the lack of belief. And Hashem said, they're not going to go in. They're all going to die here now in the desert. As soon as they heard that, the Jews says, oh, no, please, we're gonna go. And then some of them got up and says, yes, we're going. So the Alter Rebbe asked, what happened? You just said you don't believe God can take you out. So what happened? All of a sudden, when they screamed at you, all of a sudden you start believing? So the Alter Rebbe explains exactly what he just said. That really they believed all along. But what was the problem? It was the animalistic soul that boasting. The other side, the evil side in them is covering and makes itself like he's the real thing. And the lack of belief that they said that they don't believe wasn't really them, it was the Yetzer Hara talking. It was the evil inclination talking. And that's why as soon as Moshe Rabbeinu screamed at them and he crushed down the evil inclination and put it in its place, all of a sudden the godly soul started to shine and they realized, that this is the truth. It says that's what Alter Rebbe continues. Indeed, he said, we find this explicitly stated in the Torah in connection with the spies sent by Moshe to scout the Holy Land. At the outset, they declared, for he, the enemy, is stronger than we. And what does it mean when we say ki chazaku mimenu is stronger? It means he's stronger than us, or stronger than we. But the word mimenu also has a meaning of than him. And the Gemara says, al tikra mimenu Chulu is interpreted that the word mimenu that the sages say read not than we, but than he, meaning that they had no faith in Hashem's ability to lead them into the Holy Land. So what happened then? But afterward, they reversed themselves and announced, we will readily go up to conquer the land. So the Alter Rebbe asked, where did the faith, their faith in God's ability to return to them? Our teacher Moses, peace upon him, had not shown them in the interim any signs or miracle concerning this. It's not that Moshe Rabbeinu told them, okay, listen, I'm going to prove to you that Hashem is able to bring you into the land. I'm going to show you a miracle. Nothing happened. What did happen? He just screamed at them. He didn't scream at them. He told them how Hashem was angry at them. He told them, he merely told them that God was angry with them and swore not to allow them to enter the land. So the question is, what value did this divine anger and oath have to them? If they did not believe in God's ability to subdue the 31 kings who reigned in the land at that time, for which reason they had no desire whatsoever to enter the land. So what happened? Surely then the explanation is as follows, that Israelites themselves are believers, being the descendants of believers. That means that even when they said that we don't believe, they believed. Only because the sitra achra, the other side, the evil side, closed in their body, in the person of the animal soul, and had reason against the light of the holiness of the divine soul. Begasus rucho vegavuso bechutzpe bli tam v'das, with its characteristic impudent arrogance and haughtiness without sense or reason. Which this is also, this week we're going to read about the Zocher, about Amalek. That's the idea of Amalek. Amalek is just chutzpah, without reason, above reason. And that's why you didn't need reason to explain to them. All you needed is to remove that chutzpah. And therefore, therefore, as soon as God became angry with them and thundered angrily, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation? Your carcasses shall fall in this desert. I, God, have spoken, I will surely do it unto all this evil congregation. Those are the words that Hashem used when they broke out in crying and not believing in Hashem. And what happened then? Their heart was humbled and broken within them when they heard these stern words, as it is written, and the people mourned greatly. Consequently, the Sitra Achra, the other side, toppled from its dominion. Not dominion voting over here, but dominion of the Nefesh Bahamis, the animal soul, from its haughtiness and arrogance. However, Ve'Yisrael atzmam ein ma'aminim. But the Israelite themselves, meaning as far as the divine soul was concerned, they were all and believed in God all along. And here says the Alter Rebbe, this is also advice when a person sometimes gets some thoughts of questioning, is it real? Is it true? Is Hashem real? So you don't have to be afraid that those thoughts, don't think that, oh, you're such a low person, you have such thoughts. This is the haughtiness of the evil inclinations is trying to do something. It says the Alter Rebbe Mizeh, Yochel Lilmeit Kol Adam. Every person in whose mind there occurs doubts concerning faith in God can deduce from this episode of the spies that these doubts are nothing but the empty words of the Sitra Achra, which raises itself against the divine soul. But Israelites themselves are believers. It's in our DNA. Furthermore, says the Alter Rebbe, not only we are believers. The truth of the matter is, says the Alter Rebbe, even the evil inclination itself, the Sitra Achra, is also a believer. It also believes in God. But it is only given a task to confuse us, to challenge us. That's what Alter Rebbe says. V'gam ha-sitra achra atzmo, furthermore, the sitra achra itself, and ein lo sfeikus klal ba'emunah, entertains no doubt at all concerning faith. Rak shenita lo reshus lebalbei lo-adam. It has merely been granted permission to confuse man, b'divrei sheker u'mirma, with false and deceitful words. And what's the purpose? Is laharbais sechar, in order that he may be more richly rewarded, meaning that we get stronger by overcoming those things. Besides the reward that we get from serving Hashem and so on, but it helps us to get stronger. And it brings the famous example, what it says in the Zohar, Kepituye azoyna lebein hamelech b'sheker u'mirma b'reshus hamelech. It is, in this, it is similar to the harlot who attempts to seduce the king's son through falsehood and deceit with the king's approval. The king is sending her to try to seduce the son because the king wants to see and wants to bring out the inner strength, the moral strength of the child, that he should overcome these challenges, as it says in the Zohar HaKadosh. So this example is what it says in the Zohar, is referring actually to, it refers to the evil inclination, the way it is in its root, in its source, in the higher worlds. However, when it goes down lower and lower in this world, it really loses its identity, almost that you don't feel. You feel that it's really, really opposing godliness. And the metaphor that can be used, using the metaphor that the Alter Rebbe says for the Zohar, it can be used further, that metaphor, that the harlot that was hired by the king to seduce the son sometimes hires another woman, and she gives her the job. And the second woman hires a third woman, and so on. So by the time the other woman is hired, they don't really got the direct message from the king that he wants to make sure that the son doesn't fall they really think that this is the real thing, that she really needs to go and seduce the son. But when we know that ultimately everything comes from Hashem, and ultimately the world is only serving Hashem, everything. And when we crush down our evil inclination and showing how nothing it is, how lack of substance it is, then it will allow the neshama to shine. So you crush this, and the neshama starts shining, and this allows us to continue to serve Hashem and serve Hashem b'tzimcha. So again, learning this chapter, we shouldn't think that they're falling in depression, say, "Oh, we learned so many terrible things, how low we are," because who are we talking about? We're not talking about our true essence. We're talking about the evil part of us. So we're talking to our Yetzer Hara. And when we talk to the Yetzer Hara and saying this, that this is how low it is, this allows us to focus on our true self, the godly soul, and we'll be able to continue the serving Hashem b'simcha. Thank you for joining today. And please...
we got to do Shema, Rabbi Cohen.
We're going to do the Shema in a minute. All the best.
Rabbi Cohen.
Yeah.